Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to do the chapter 5 of class 9 CBSE Science, the fundamental unit of life. So let's begin. So the first question which comes in my mind is, what are the cells? They are the smallest and most basic unit of life. They are the structural and functional unit of life. But why are the structural or functional unit of life? It is because since different cells combine to form tissue, different tissues combine to form an organ, and different organs combine to form an organ system, and these organ systems at the end form the body. That is why it is forming the basic structure of the body. That is why it is known as the structural unit of life, and it is also known as the functional unit of life. It is because since it does all the necessary life processes which are needed for an human or an organism to survive. That is why it is known as the functional unit of life. So then, who discovered the cell? In 1665, Robert Hooke discovered a cell while performing an experiment on a slice of cork with the help of microscope. Now here are the same names of who discovered different things in these categories. Now in exam many times we are asked the question, who discovered dead cell or the living cell. But when we see that who discovered these cells, the first thing which comes in our mind is Robert Hooke. But for confusing us, they are writing it like it. So when it is asked who discovered dead cells, it will be Robert Hooke in 1665, and who discovered living cell will be Anton van Leeuwenhoek in 1674. He discovered living cell in the pond, and Robert Hooke discovered dead cell in a cork. Then nucleus was discovered by Robert Brown in 1831. Then the term protoplasma was coined by Purkinje in 1639. The first part of cell theory was given out by this Sheldon and Shawn in 1838 and 1839. The first part states that all the organisms are made up of cells. Now, the second part of cell theory states, which was given out by Virchow in 1855, that every cell is coming from a pre-existing cell. Now, there are two types of organisms. First, unicellular organisms. They are the organisms which are made up of only one cell. Means they are not having multiple cells like us human. But unicellular organisms are those which are having multiple cells. For example, as human, and for example, unicellular will be amoeba, paramecium, etc. Now, why do these cells have different shape and sizes? So they are having different shapes and sizes because they are having different function. Since, like for example, a nerve cell has to be long so that it can transfer the message swiftly from brain to different parts of the body. But we can, in a case of eye, its cell cannot be long and having roots like noodles. But that is why different cells have different shape. Now, what is division of labor in an organism? In multicellular organisms like us humans and animals, we have various parts and organs for performing different functions of our body. For example, we have heart for pumping blood and lungs to respirate. But unicellular organisms does not have this kind of organs or parts, since they are only made of a single cell. So everything is done by the single cell only. So these single cell only respirate, excrete, and digest the food. Now, what are these cells made up of? These cells are made up of majorly three things: plasma membrane, nucleus, and cytoplasm. They are containing these main things. Now, what is plasma membrane? Plasma membrane, it is also known as a cell membrane. It is the outermost layer of an animal cell. It separates the inner components of the cell from the outside environment. Plasma membrane have holes which allows the movement of material. It is semi-permeable in nature or selectively permeable. and these words means that they it chooses which things comes in and which thing goes out. Since plasma membrane is the outermost layer, so it separates the animal cells from the outside environment, and also it helps in transfer of material from the outside environment to inside. Because cells also need a different material for surviving. Now, cell wall. It is only present in plant and bacterial cells. Cell wall is made up of cellulose. Cell wall is completely permeable in nature, means it allows everything or all the materials to come in or go out. And since cell wall is the outermost layer of plant cells, so it protects the plant cell from outside environment, hence separating it also separating it from the outside environment. Now nucleus. Nucleus. It has a double layer covering called the nuclear membrane. Same as it has the same work as plasma membrane, transferring material from cytoplasm to the nucleus or from nucleus to cytoplasm through the pores which are present in the nuclear membrane, known as nuclear pores. And nucleus also contains chromosomes, which is a most important part uh, for cell division or for transferring characteristics from the parent to the offspring, and it is also known as the brain of the cell. Means in exam many times questions are asked based in instead of writing nucleus they write brain of the cell. Many times students get confused that what is the brain of the cell, and that is why so it is also known as the brain of the cell. Now, what are chromosomes? They contain the information for the inheritance of character from the parents to the next generation in the form of DNA. Full form of DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. And these chromosomes means they transfer the hereditary genes or uh, transfer the characteristic from the parents to the offspring. For example, the parents are one parent is having a blue eye, so it may happen these characteristics may go to the offspring and it also may have a blue eyes. Now, these chromosomes are made up of DNA and protein, and they also contain genes, which are the unit of inheritance. And when the cell are not dividing, the DNA is present in chromatin material. So, what are these chromatin material? Chromatin material is an entangled mass of thread-like structure. So, when the cell is not dividing, the chromatin material is are thread-like structure entangled in each other, and when the cell is about to divide, at that time these chromatin material come together and get organized in the form of chromosomes, so that the genes and the characteristics can be transferred from the parent to the offspring. Now, there are two types of cells. First are prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells are those cells which do not have a nuclear membrane, and eukaryotic are those which have a nuclear membrane and have a well-defined nucleus. Now, in many times we are asked the question, write difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. First, for prokaryotic, their size is usually 1 to 10 micrometers, but for eukaryotic, their size is from 5 to 10 micrometers. And for prokaryotic, they do not have nuclear membrane and also they contain nucleoid, but eukaryotic cells have a nuclear membrane and have a well-defined nucleus. Prokaryotic cells only contain a single chromosome, but eukaryotic cells always contain more than one chromosome. And prokaryotic cells do not have membrane-bound organelles since the nuclear membrane is not present. So the membrane-bound organelles cannot also be present. So eukaryotic cells have membrane-bound organelles since it has a nuclear membrane. Prokaryotic cells, in prokaryotic cells, cell division only occur by mitosis, but in eukaryotic cell, it happens by both mitosis and meiosis. Example of prokaryotic cells are bacteria and blue-green algae. and examples of eukaryotic cells are all organisms except bacteria and blue green algae. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed this session, please consider subscribing. Please share this video to other friends of yours. Please comment, like, share. And the topic of osmosis was not covered in this session. It will be covered separately in another video. So please wait for the other videos. Thank you. You please wait for the next part.